My guest is Robert Murray, baseball writer, longtime baseball writer, been 10 years in the business now, as we discussed beforehand. More than that, also, he's a transaction extraordinaire. This is his time of year to shine. You've probably seen him on social media. He, of course, is a formerly with the Athletic, covered the Brewers for a short time. Sheboygan native, Robert Murray. Robert, thank you for joining us, man. What is going on, buddy? Where are you? Where do you live now? Are you still in the state of Wisconsin, or have you broadened your horizons elsewhere?
I've left the great state of Wisconsin. I go back quite a bit to visit family, but now I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, a place that I've always wanted to live at, and have moved out here just for pure happiness reasons. But also, this is a really good place to network for baseball purposes, and yeah, just the best of both worlds have collided in Arizona, and now I'm here and in love and life. But it is good to be back here with you, JR, because I have missed you dearly. You and Todd Rosiak and Kurt and. It's a good squad you have over there. Also, shout out to Tom Hodgercourt, by the way. Absolute G.
Yes, we are a good time at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. I remember one of the rare road games I've gotten to cover in my time there was the 2019 wild card game in Washington. You were with me on that trip. That was fun. Had a good time. And I needed to pick your brain about this. But first, you've probably told this story a lot about how you got into the business and how you sort of found this non-traditional path toward being, I don't know if transaction guru sells you short, but this again is the time of year where you're breaking news left and right. And I don't know how that happened for a kid from Sheboygan. I mean, can you give me a little bit of the origin story, the superhero origin story of how this worked out for you?
Yeah, honestly, it kind of happened by accident. I created a Twitter account when I was 16 years old. I remember I was sitting on the couch next to my mom and dad, and I'm like, you know what? I just want to talk some ball with people. Made a Twitter account called @BigLeagueRumors and just started talking ball, sharing the transactions that were reported by Ken Rosenthal and John Heyman and Jeff Passan and those guys. Noticed I got a decent following, like maybe a few thousand people. Started reaching out to some folks. Initially got shot down pretty good. I was just asking for information immediately rather than trying to build a relationship. And then next thing I know, I kind of fell into the Billy Butler going to the A's scoop where he signed 3 years for $30 million. And the next day I was on MLB Network talking about how I broke it. I'm like, holy crap, this could end up being a career. This is something I'm super passionate about. I got connected with John Heyman and worked with him for a while. He's still a very good friend. I talk to him daily at this point. Got a job at the Athletic covering the Brewers, as he said, with Ken Rosenthal, and that was an absolute blast. And now it's turned into this beast of trying to break news often, and getting the Rafael Devers scoop this year was a blast. It was a lot of fun. It was exhilarating, and yeah, it kind of shut down baseball Twitter for a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. The Devers scoop was yours, and there has not been much movement since, but that's about to change because we're just a few days away now from the trade deadline, and the Milwaukee Brewers are in a really good place as we record this. They got the best record in baseball midweek, and I gotta think they're going to be involved, but you never want to get too excited when the Milwaukee Brewers are involved because they tend to be a little conservative around the trade deadline, as fans here know. I have a feeling, just from a general sense, because you've kind of, I'm sure you've networked with every team in baseball with agents and players and everything else. I feel like when the Brewers make a move, it's usually kind of out of left field. It's a big surprise. It makes me think that they're about as hush-hush as any organization in baseball in terms of, like leaking information or letting people know they're thinking, so to speak. Since you know the other teams, do you agree with that? Is that just something that we perceive here in Milwaukee because we've been surprised a few times, or are they really legitimately one of the quieter teams, one of the harder teams to read this time of year?
They're definitely tough to read, and if you want to get an accurate read on the Brewers, you talk to people who have spoken with them, and they're not the most secretive team by any means, but they are secret. I would put the Atlanta Braves as the most secretive team for sure. Okay. They operate in silence, and they often drop their press releases about
Are we getting breaking news now, Robert Murray, as we're talking?
Maybe. But anyways, yeah, it's that time of the year.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But no, the Braves are definitely the most secretive team. The Brewers are absolutely up there as well. And I mean, I got a sense in what they're looking at trying to do this year, but I don't necessarily have like who their prime targets are, which that also leaves a lot of mystery with what they're trying to do this year.
Well, tell us what you can tell us. And in addition to that, what you think of the Brewers in the current ecosystem. Obviously, there's labor stoppage looming in a couple years. The Brewers, if they go on and let's say win the World Series, which would first of all set this town on fire, but secondly would sort of be a proof of concept that a team that doesn't spend, that doesn't aggressively pursue free agents, and maybe doesn't even aggressively get involved this time of year either, can actually succeed. That would probably lead me to think, well, the Brewers, why would they be aggressive? Because they've shown time and time again, they can compete in the regular season without making those big moves. But the other piece to that is, well, what about the postseason? They haven't done that. They haven't ever gotten that masher who could supplement the offense and maybe carry them for a playoff game or two. So obviously this all leads back to what you think they'll do. Are they going to just be the Brewers, or because they have this uniquely positioned team as good as any team in baseball, maybe they take some bigger swings this time?
To me, they need to take a bigger swing. This is such a unique opportunity for them. Like, if they could ever go back or if they could ever make a CC Sabathia like splash, it would be right now. If they have such a nice core of players, they have Jackson Churio, who's ascending. Jacob Mizorowski is the next great thing in baseball. You don't know how long you're going to have Freddy Peralta. If you can go out and get an Eugenio Suarez, you can get a Ryan O'Hearn, or an impact bat like that, to me, that's a no-brainer. And that's something the front office should absolutely consider. But that being said, it all comes down to what Mark Antanasio is willing to let them do in terms of adding to the payroll. And the good thing for them now is you're acquiring them mid-season, so it's half of their salaries. But they should have the flexibility. Antanasio should open up the books and try to get a player that can be impactful. That being said, you don't want to be stupid about giving up your top prospects, because the prospect hauls that are going to require to get some of these players is just going to be really high. But this is the year that they absolutely have to go for it. And if they don't, it would be a colossal failure by ownership. And it would signal to the fan base that, yeah, like, we're comfortable with being good, but we're not willing to go the extra mile to win a World Series.
Man, interesting. And you mentioned Suarez. Eugenio Suarez is the biggest fish in this pond, it feels like. And that's why I've always thought the longer this goes along, the more I feel like, well, the Brewers aren't going to be in on him because everybody wants him. He fits a position of need. And I just don't see the Brewers ever getting into a bidding war. Those prospects are very dear to their hearts, as you know. Would there be a scenario where you see that's the guy that maybe they chase after and they get that masher for the postseason?
No, I think they should chase after him. Whether or not they actually get him remains to be seen. My guess is that's probably unlikely, but he's exactly the kind of player that they should be targeting at this point. And he's got 35-plus homers this year. He's been phenomenal. And something that they really value in Milwaukee is clubhouse presence. I mean, you know that being around there. Like, a lot of their locker room is just filled with really good people. And Suarez, his leadership is just regarded as some of the best in the game. And it's difficult for players to be traded mid-season because there's just so much that comes with being traded in addition to like having to be with a new team. And he would be the kind of guy who has a history of doing so. He's used to it. And he could probably hit the ground running in Milwaukee. So again, I don't think he's probably the most likely candidate by any means, but he is somebody who should, for every reason imaginable, be their top target.
You had mentioned Freddy Peralta, and it wasn't so long ago that Freddy Peralta was kind of one of the top trade targets on this market back when the Brewers were just another team. That doesn't seem very likely anymore. He is a guy that might still draw some interest, and the Brewers have dealt from their major league roster before. Now, maybe not with the exception of the infamous Josh Hader deal, not the top of their major league roster before, but I tried to come up with a scenario where I could see them still trading Freddy Peralta and getting something pretty substantive back. I couldn't find a partner. I couldn't make that work. It was a really difficult thing to do for me as I was trying to realistically chart that out. But do you think that scenario exists, that they would trade a guy who is ostensibly their ace? I mean, they have a lot of great pitchers at this point, great depth, that they could move on from him knowing that they could get some big league return. Is there still a scenario where you think that makes sense?
I think it would make sense, but that being said, they are pretty intent on having Peralta for the rest of the season. And Matt Arnold said as much to the Journal-Sentinel. I believe he said it to Kurt.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a good job by Kurt on getting that one. And it makes all the sense because you want to have him during this stretch. Having him on your roster absolutely ends up giving you the best chance at advancing deep into the postseason and maybe even having a World Series or going to the World Series, I should say. And that Josh Hader trade, when they made that, it happened in Pittsburgh. And I remember talking to people, players, you name it, who were around that situation, and they were just blindsided. It sent shockwaves throughout that team that you could not. I don't think even the front office could have envisioned it. David Stearns even said as much, as like he didn't exactly expect that kind of an impact from that trade. And to be fair, after that trade, they tried moving Estuary Ruiz, who they ended up getting for Hader, and they tried getting an impact bat. It did not end up working out, but they had visions of trying to do more. It did not happen, and I think they've learned from their previous mistakes. Matt Arlo was here when that all went down. But yeah, I don't envision Peralta being on the move now, but in the offseason, that could be a different story.
Oh, right. That's a totally different conversation. Did not know that about Ruiz. Of course, Ruiz is the key piece they moved to get William Contreras in the subsequent offseason. So it works out. But interesting. I didn't know there was maybe other things afoot that fell through there.
Yeah, they were thinking big. They were definitely thinking big.
I'm going to put a pin in that because I want to get some of your stories from years past in a second. But just maybe anybody else, you mentioned O'Hearn, you mentioned Suarez, anybody else that you think a bigger fish that makes sense for this team, not necessarily maybe not even necessarily a corner infielder, like the shortstop situation has been a little bit fluid, although Joey Ortiz has played better lately. Is there anyone else out there that you think that's a guy the Brewers should be after?
Yeah. And it's a good question, because the Brewers, as of this point, they're looking at three things. They're looking at upgrading the backup catcher position. They are looking for an optionable reliever, which is something that they love in that organization. And they are also looking for first base depth or just enforcements there. And what exactly that could look like, I don't know. O'Hearn would definitely fit the bill of first base. Josh Naylor in Arizona is another candidate who is a first baseman, although I don't know what the Brewers' appetite would be there. But those are the areas that they're looking at. And to me, that if you're looking at those three areas, it's probably tough to end up getting an impact player there, especially because the one that would scream to me, like you make a splash, would be first base, but you have Rhys Hoskins on the roster. And unless you don't have him on the roster, I just don't envision a big move there. So I don't know what they would be looking at, but that's the feel I have as of this point.
Yeah, well, they don't have Rhys Hoskins right now. He's supposed to be back by September from his injury, but I guess you never know if that finger issue lingers. All right, so I mentioned this. Do you have any good stories from years past? Close calls. We learned a few weeks ago that the Brewers had made a play for Felix Hernandez back several years. I don't think we actually got an exact year, but it was as GMs were telling stories. Do you know of anything that you can share anyway that would, I don't know, make us raise an eyebrow or two from years past?
Yeah, actually, I'll share a Brewers beat favorite. Actually, this is well regarded at this point. But when the Brewers and the Giants made a trade, I believe it was 2018 or 2019, one of those years, I was under the impression that they were getting Will Smith, or they were maybe even getting a Bumgarner. Or was it Will Smith? It was one of the better relievers that they had.
Could be. I mean, they themselves traded Will Smith, but that was back in 2016. I'm pretty sure. There was a year where they were sellers.
Yeah, sure. I think they were interested in trying to get him back. But anyways, I was under the impression that when the Brewers made the trade with the Giants, that it was a significant move. And I was thinking it was Bumgarner or one of those big guys. And I tweeted that the Brewers and Giants were in agreement on a significant trade. And all of a sudden, I had Ken Rosenthal text me being like, what are you hearing? I'm like, I think it's one of these guys. And he then texted me saying, it's Drew Pomeranz. And I'm like, oh, no.
2019, love that.
This is tough. I was wearing it, and I was getting flack like crazy on Twitter. It was tough. And I remember sitting in the press box that day, that night after it all happened, and I had Todd Rosiak and Adam McCalvy tell me, you gotta lead into this, because this is really funny. And I did, and it was the best thing that I could have ever done. And I even had after Pomeranz went on this huge resurgence in Milwaukee, he had a great ERA. He was an impact dude there. He was phenomenal.
It's incredible. Yep.
I even had Mike Fasalo, who's their lovely PR guy in Milwaukee, get at me on Twitter about it too, saying Drew Pomeranz has been a significant. I mean, it was really funny. So that would be my best one for sure. I've probably got some other stories in the back of in the notebook somewhere, but as of this point, that's the one that kind of stands out to me the most.
Drew Pomeranz, like you said, went on to absolutely shove down the stretch. He was huge for the Brewers. He pitched great in the wild card game. He was absolutely a significant addition. Bob Murray, you were not wrong. Maybe early, but you were not wrong.
No, the crystal ball was telling me certain things, so that was big.
That's great. Yeah, the Brewers have not famously not been great at reliever deadline pickups since Drew Pomeranz, although Nick Mears, I guess, after he was acquired last year at the deadline, kind of has a case. He's been pretty good for them. Anything else, Robert Murray, before I let you go? Brewers related, anything rolling around in your brain, anything that you're interested in seeing that might adjacently affect Milwaukee as we head into the trade deadline?
Yeah, I would look at what the Cubs do as something that's going to be really interesting for the Brewers. And the Brewers, if the Cubs end up making a big move, which I would not rule out by any means in the starting pitching front, that seems like something they're really intent on doing. That's not going to impact what the Brewers do. They're very process oriented in Milwaukee, and they're not going to panic. They're not going to react to it. They're going to continue doing what they do. But again, this is the time, especially now, coming off of that big win streak, you have the best record in baseball, being such a small market team, go make a splash. This is the time. Mark Antanasio, if you're listening to this, which you should be, this JR Radcliffe, maybe. This is the time to make a splash. Show that fan base you're very serious about winning, because, I mean, it took the front office kind of begging for money to get them to sign Jose Quintana this offseason. And that was for, what, $4 million with like $2 million deferred. So we'll see exactly how that happens, but this is the time to make a splash.
He is Robert Murray. You should absolutely be following him this time of year. Turn those notifs on, baby. By Robert Murray on Twitter. BY Robert Murray. You definitely are going to need to be following him as things unravel here over the next few days. Thank you so much, sir. We will chat with you again. Enjoy Scottsdale, Arizona. Great to talk to you.
No, I appreciate you having me. Thanks for all you do, man. You're a great dude, and I appreciate your friendship. Thank you.